Okay, all right. Well, hello, and thank you so much for joining all of us here at the Social Studies Conference and the Personal Finance session. Good to see everyone here. And it doesn't look like I have screen sharing privileges, so if I could get those privileges so I could share the presentation, that would be great. And I'm loving it. Yes, it would be wonderful to see everybody where they're from here on the chat, so we know where everybody is from. Let's see, I'm still not able to share the screen. I guess I'm Amy. I'll just kind of talk a little bit till I get that privilege, but I'm Amy with the Oklahoma Council on Economic Education. We're a nonprofit that's housed at the University of Central Oklahoma, and our mission and purpose is to promote and teach personal finance, or not to teach, but to help teachers teach personal finance and economics. And we do that, the primary way that we reach our mission is to help teachers and to serve teachers in any way that we can in teaching. So, okay, I still can't share. So is that Todd that has that privilege? It looks like he's the host.
Yes, Todd, can you get Amy the privileges for being a co-host?
And
I'm working on the text right now.
Okay, and I'll just keep talking about a few things that are going on. We have a great partnership with the State Department of Education, and we've started a professional development series. I'll show you in a little bit where those are located, but they are on the page of the State Department of Education. Carrie Hickson is on the call. She's a master teacher of personal finance. I see her. Hi, Carrie, and she's helped us out with some of those videos, and will be helping us out with future training videos that we have. So we have a great lineup of a really great asynchronous professional development program for all the standards in personal finance. So let's see. I guess for right now, I am just gonna pull up my own presentation that you guys will not be able to see, and I'll get started. I think if you'll start with, I would love to know, we'll do it in the comments. What are you doing right now? Are you teaching all of your classes virtually? Are you teaching a hybrid of both? Are you in person but could shift to virtual anytime? Do you not know what you're doing and trying to figure that out? If you'll type that in the comments just so we kind of know where everybody's at, that would be great. I'm going to pull up my comments. So I see Carrie 2 days and 3 days, 2 days in person, 3 days virtual, a little bit of both. Very good. All right. Very nice. Okay. So far, I haven't seen anybody type that they have no idea what they're doing. So it seems like things are going really well. That's good. All in person, ability to transition virtual if needed, in person and via Canvas for distance learning. Okay, wonderful. That's great. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, moving on. Let's see. I'm trying to kind of figure out how to do this with just talking. That's definitely not the best way to do a presentation. One of the resources that I'm going to be sharing with you, or I will start to share with you now, is EconEd Link. That's a great place to go to find personal finance resources as well as economics, depending on what you're teaching. So the next question I'm going to ask you, and this is probably a good way to interact right now, since I am not able to share my presentation. What are you teaching personal finance as a standalone class? Is it woven into another class, such as another social studies class or something along those lines? If you'll add that into your comments on how you're teaching it, because there's It's definitely different if you get the whole a whole semester or even a year, or if you just have a couple weeks to teach it in a certain class such as government. Very good. Okay. Part of a government class, okay. All semester with econ. Okay, very good. That's fantastic. Okay, so EconEd Link is a great resource. You'll love it when you when you see it. EconEd Link. So definitely write that down. And I already have a list of resources that I'm planning to share with you. So it'll definitely be shared with you following this presentation. So if we're not able to get to the point where I can show you all these great and wonderful things, and actually. Yeah, I'm going to start to pull some links that I can just grab and drop into the share drive for you guys. Since it looks like that is not going to happen, I will start off with one of the games, and since I saw a couple of you have government and just weaving it into any social studies class, but even if you're not in a social studies class, is a game called the Fiscal Ship. I'm going to drop it into the chat here. The Fiscal Ship, feel free to jump on that right now and take a gander at it. It is a game, especially with politics being heavy right now, as they've been for quite some time, but especially with the new president. I'm the co-host now. Okay, wonderful. You guys check out the Fiscal Ship while I get while I get my presentation up here. Okay, can I see with a couple nods? If you, okay, Carrie, thank you. That you can see my screen. There's a Fiscal Ship. I have it pulled up there, and I'll just run through this. You can you kind of enter in a little bit of information. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And you can go through this. This is a great one to tie in with anything. It's relevant to anything going on in current events. And you can have students either just pick their own goals, their policies, their governing goals, or to choose their own goals. And so we will, and it still has Donald Trump's goals on there. I guarantee that will probably be taken down in a little bit. They usually are current, but we'll just for current events, we'll go with Joe Biden's priorities. If it's going to. Looks like I may be having trouble doing that, but you pick your policies and you pick different different choices and what you're focused on in your policies, and then it has an actual ship that goes up and down and showing whether you're balancing the budget. And the point of this is to show how balancing the budget, between the similarities between balancing your own personal finance budget and the government's budget, are very similar. One is a lot easier to balance than the other, but there are similarities, and that's a great one to tie in if you're teaching a social studies class, but it's relevant for any class. So I'm going to go over to my, here's my presentation. I think I've moved over. I'm going to go back over here. This is, and I don't expect you to be able to see all of this. I'll show you where you can get this, but this is a graphic that you can download off of our website that lists all the standards. This is a great thing that you could share with your class as you're getting started teaching personal finance, or anytime throughout the year, just something for you to help keep track of the standards. These are the games and activities that I'm going to go over today. We've talked about the Fiscal Ship, one, how to be a millionaire, a student-created retirement digital vision board. The Fiscal Ship, it looks like I have that on there twice. That's a typo. And the Bean Game and Better Money Habits. And I think I didn't change one out for another one I'm going to show you. But we'll start with the How to Become a Millionaire game. This is one of my absolute favorite games to teach personal finance. It's a great way to get students excited about being smart and about making money choices. It's a good one to start off your semester with, or when you're getting started with teaching personal finance, or just a time when it's time to shake things up in the classroom. And so you go through, it's a true false game, and there's lots of different ways to play it, especially given whether you're in person, virtual, asynchronous, synchronous, whichever style you were doing. But you would typically have them and group them into pairs of 2 to 3 students, and which was hard to do when you're doing an asynchronous classroom. I haven't quite figured out to bring the magic into asynchronous, but this is the only one that will be like this. But you go through these statements, true or false statements. This is the first one. Most millionaires are college graduates, and you have them answer whether it's true or false. And one way to play it is that students, there's a guide that they'll go through to, or a score sheet that they have, and they get 10 points for every true or false that they, for every correct answer that they get, and negative 10 points if they get it incorrect. And then they can also millionaire or double down and millionaire their answer before they provide their as they are presenting their answer, and double their points. It gets very competitive. So the answer to this is true. Let's see, it looks like it's showing up a little bit funny, but and it gives you the talking points on that. It looks like I'm skipping ahead a little bit here somehow, but gives you the kind of scenario out of that. 4 out of 5 millionaires are college graduates, 18% have master's degrees. Go through that. Then moving on to statement 2, most millionaires work fewer than 40 hours a week. And this is one where it catches a lot of students. They think, well, if I'm a millionaire, I can do whatever I want. I don't need to work a lot. And so that's a fun one. And the answer to that is false. Most millionaires work more than 40 hours a week. And let's see, I'm moving quickly. True or false, most millionaires drive expensive new cars. Another one of my favorite ones, because this really catches students that they think that millionaires drive expensive new cars. And the answer to that is false. Most millionaires spend under $30,000 for their car, kind of with the principle that millionaires are millionaires because they like to keep their money and not spend it on expensive, flashy things. This game gets really competitive. They get really engaged in this. So this is such a fun one to play. And you go and find this at EconEd Link. I had mentioned this earlier when we were getting set up. And I'm going to just type in how to be a millionaire. And on this EconEd Link, there's several ways to go to it though. And there it is. And my vision is it'll go there really quickly and I'll be able to show you all the resources. There it is. And this was just recently updated. And so it kind of gives you some information. There is a whole lesson that goes around it that where it says here that you can go and purchase it through your relationship with the Oklahoma Council on Economic Education. We can get you this this whole book, but for this lesson, you really don't need all those resources. You can go right here to the slides, and it pulls up a slide deck for you, just the ones that I showed you as we were going through that. So, but there's this curriculum book is full of great resources, and we would be very glad to get you that curriculum book, either an electronic version or the actual book version. So, now going on to, this is an activity that is the student created retirement digital vision board. This is an activity that can be done any way you are teaching your classroom, whether it's in person, synchronous or asynchronous. And I'm going to go and find that. Sorry, I have a few boxes that are hiding some things, so my navigation is a little off. But that's a State Department website full of great resources. Let's see if I can get things moved around here. There it is. So this is the Money is Okay site, and this is a website, I'll get into that activity here in a second, but this is a website that is designed just for Oklahoma teachers teaching personal finance. This is specific for our standards in Oklahoma, and you can go right to this website, click on any of these standards, and it'll give you resources for teaching that resource. Over here, I'd shown you that the printable before. That's where you would go and find that printable. But I'm going to go and pull that lesson, that activity, I think that was my plan. I got a little off with the presentation. I'm just going to go back to the digital vision board. This goes through an activity that students would do that you would provide to them, and that's located on moneyisoK.org. And they would create a vision board based on their retirement. Part of the retirement standard is looking up your life expectancy, planning for a normal age of retirement. So that goes through a series of questions, and they create a vision board to reflect all of the parts of the standard and retirement. And so I actually had my 16-year-old daughter do this for me and walk through this so I could make sure that it was guided correctly. And she is showing that she wants to be a realtor. That's going to be how she makes her money. And then her retirement plan is to have some houses for rent and to have some supplemental income. So that's what she did for her retirement board. But this is a great activity to go through that can be done that can be done any style of teaching. So that was done on Google Drive. Another lesson or an activity that is fun is the Would You Rather game, and there's multiple options in how you can do this. You can do it in person, where cards would be presented, and I'm going to show that really quickly. But you can download a set of cards. So if you were in a classroom, you would have a set of cards that are Would You Rather cards that are going to show up here in just a minute. And it has all sorts of different questions that students get asked. So this one, would you rather live without music or television? And then they answer the question. This is actually in a Google Doc, so this could be a Google form. So you could do this in virtual or in person, however you'd like to do this. But they go through these Would You Rather questions, and I'm attempting to scroll down, but students would go through this, and it's really fabulous as soon as it works. And they would answer these questions. Would you rather own a ski lodge or a surf camp? I scrolled through some more money related ones. I'm going to go back to those. Would you rather have more time or more money? This one is my favorite. Would you rather wear only 80s clothing or 80s hair? So there's some fun ones that are in there. Would you rather find true love or $10 million? Would you rather have $1 million now after taxes or $50,000 a year for the rest of your life? So it goes through a series of these would you rather questions. You could actually have these cards in person where you're passing them out and discussing them and having students going around and talking to each other, maybe creating a tally mark or system to find out what's the most popular answer, or providing this Google form. So they would go through and answer these questions, and then at the bottom, have a little bit of a reflection on one of the questions, kind of providing some reflection about a particular answer that they may have given. And then there's a video that they can watch. It's a 1.5-minute video that we created that ties it in. How does this relate to personal finance and economics? And the basic part of it is just decision making and how important decision making is in both personal finance and economics, especially when it comes to personal finance, just the finance related questions, and then cost and benefit analysis of decision making in personal finance. So that is another great activity to get students engaged in personal finance. Okay. Nextgen is another fantastic resource to go to. And one thing that you may have noticed in teaching personal finance is there is just an enormous amount of resources in teaching personal finance and economics. There's a lot of competition out there, and that's one of the hardest things about teaching personal finance is there's so many resources and trying to figure out which ones meet the standards. And many of, there's a lot of groups out there that will say, well, we meet the standards, but be careful because sometimes they don't meet all the standards. And so it's important to be looking at that. So, but Nextgen is another great resource that does cover a lot of standards. You definitely want to look and make sure that it's matching everything. This is a particular resource. If you've ever played the bean game in class, this is one that has been moved to a more virtual setting, but it's where students are, they're given 21 beans to play with, and they can pick where they're going to put their beans. That's basically their salary. And so they need to figure out, and they have usually a roommate that they have that they're making decisions on what's most important. I know this is small. It looks like it got moved a little bit too, but they pick where they're going to spend their salary, whether they're going to on food, whether they're going to cook at home or frequent fast food out, or all meals are away from home. So how are they going to spend just a little bit of money on food or a lot of money on food? It goes through insurance and clothing, and also there's a couple of pages on this, but and if you were in a classroom, they would actually have beans that they would place. And then there's a virtual option, and I'm going to show you this, and they have beans on the side, if you can see that over there, and they choose to put their beans where they spend their beans accordingly. The next step, if you were to play it in person or in a synchronous way where you're kind of have a live but virtual version, is then to say, okay, there's been a recession, or your roommate lost their job, or your spouse lost their job, and so now you only have 15 beans. So now what are you going to do? How do you make different decisions based on what's important to you and what you need to have? Do you still need to have, can you ride the bus, or is it really important that you have a car to keep your job? How can you make those decisions? So that's the virtual option of playing the bean game, and that's from the Nextgen personal finance. Nextgen does have, I have them over here. I'm going to go to their this is their website. They have an enormous amount of resources and activities and games, and that can be used both virtually and while you were teaching in a classroom setting. So that's a great one to check out. Okay, moving on to Better Money Habits. This is one of my absolute favorite resources. It's a series of videos that is done by Khan Academy, that in partnership with Bank of America. And I will attempt to play a video, but we will see, we'll at least be able to see, and it looks actually, I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to go to EconEd Link. And if you'll hold on for just a second, there's a whole series of lessons on better money habits that have these videos embedded into them, and a classroom style teaching around them. And when I say classroom style, I really mean virtually or in person. Classroom, whatever your classroom looks like. Okay, and I'm not seeing, is that? I think that's it right there. So I'm not sure if the sound will come through, but you can definitely get the style of the video. Oh, here we go.
So you're thinking about renting your own place.
Can you hear sound?
There are lots of decisions to make, like
okay, very
how
good.
close do you want to be to work, or to your friends, or to your family? How much space do you need? Are you going to live alone or with roommates? Once you have a sense of where you want to live and how you want to live, it's time to start thinking about what renting a place will actually cost you. and what you can afford. Now, the two biggest costs you'll have are going to be your monthly expenses and your move-in costs. To start, you'll want to figure out your monthly expenses, which will help you determine what you can afford to rent. Then we'll take a look at what your move-in expenses might be in another video. So first you'll need to decide what your budget will be. A decent guideline for figuring out what you can afford is something called the 30% rule. Basically, you take 30% of your gross income, that is, your entire income before taxes, and allocate that to your general housing expenses. That's not just the rent, it's also your utilities, insurance, and other costs associated with your home. It is set at 30%, so you can still have some money left over to cover your other expenses, and hopefully even save something while you're at it. Now, everyone's situation is different. For instance, if you have student loans or credit card debt to pay off, you might want to spend less on your housing. Or if you live in a city where rents are higher, you might be able to afford more because you can use public transportation and won't have the typical costs that come with a car. But for this example, let's stick to 30%. So say we're looking at an annual salary of $40,000. In this case, your budget will be 40,000 times 0.3 divided by 12 is 1,000 per month. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to go right out and look at rentals listed at $1,000 a month, or that really nice place you see for $10.50. First, let's think about some other monthly expenses you'll have in addition to your rent. The biggest monthly expenses you're probably going to have are utilities. That's your electric, gas, oil or other fuels, water, and sewer bills. In some cases, the landlord pays for some utilities, but not others. What you're responsible for and what the landlord is responsible for should be spelled out in the lease. Electric bills can vary dramatically. The price of electricity fluctuates throughout the year, or even the time of day. But for this exercise, let's say this averages out to $90 a month over the course of a year. Your fuel bill, typically your gas or oil, can also vary dramatically throughout the year. But for now, we'll estimate it to be about $90 a month as well. And if you have to pay for water, that bill might be around $30 a month. You might also want to think about getting renter's insurance. If there's a fire, a bad leak, or a burglary, rental insurance can cover the cost of your belongings, and it can be as little as $15 a month. Keep in mind, these are all general estimates. Your local utility or insurance companies are usually the most accurate source for this information if you want to figure it out yourself. And these are just a few of the basic monthly costs you might encounter with a rental. You might run into extra charges for other amenities as well. And again, depending on the lease agreement, you could even be responsible for additional things, like home repairs. In any case, adding this up gives us a total of $225 for general housing expenses. So, we want to take this and subtract it from the original budget of $1,000, which leaves $775 for rent, which may or may not be enough. If it's too low, one possibility would be splitting your housing expenses with roommates, leaving you more to spend on rent. So you can see there are a variety of expenses you may want to think about in addition to the rent, including the cost of just getting a new place, which we'll cover in another video.
Okay, so you can really get the style of that video. Those are all really thorough. That's a really great one, and I wanted to show you the whole video on that because that's a great one to meet our renting versus buying standard that we have in personal finance. There's and as you can see at the top here, lots of different videos that you can choose from to look at. And then there are a handful of about 15 or 16 videos that in EconEd Link we've taken, actually done lessons around each of those videos. I'm going to see if I can find that quickly. There it is. 17 videos. So you can get some more classroom style discussion around those videos, but you can pull a lot of those, use those to send to your students ahead of time to watch before a class, or especially if you are virtual, drop it into a Google form and ask them to respond to watching that video and what they learned. These are all the ones that there's lessons created on. And actually our team in Oklahoma helped create those videos. Carrie Hickson is on the video. I'm going to bring her up again. She helped get some of those lessons together. So great resources there. So that's another one to definitely check out. While we're here in collections, on the EconEd link that I brought up before, this is a great place to go to find kind of curated resources on specific topics. And the basics of savings is right here. Financial fitness for life, that's where I pulled the how to be a millionaire game, and all the lessons in the financial fitness for life and the high school series is located here. And again, if you want a more in-depth version of it, we are glad at the Oklahoma Council on Economic Education to get you that full resource. And when I send you a recap of everything that we discussed today, our information at the council will be there, and you can get in touch with us to request that. So as you can see, lots of great resources, and we do have a correlation guide that will be included in that to our specific standards in personal finance. As with these, this is on our national website, EconEd Link. So when we drill down to Oklahoma, we have a really extensive set of standards, of 14 standards. And so it is hard to find specific resources on items such as gambling and charitable giving. Not that many states have those standards. In fact, in Oklahoma, we're the only one to have gambling. So once you get more detailed, it gets a little bit harder to find some resources in some of those standards. And that's definitely what we're here for, to help out. And when you go to the Money is Okay site that I'd showed you before, you'll be able to find resources on all the standards. So let's see what else I have. The other resource, I'm just doing kind of a lots of virtual resources that can, in whichever way you're teaching, but these are all virtual friendly. The stock market game is a program that we've been running for years, and this just continues to be a really great resource for whatever way that you're teaching. It is an online game, and it's actually for 4th through 12th grade, so covers quite a few different grade levels. And students are given sign-ups for your students, and then they get into teams of approximately 3 to 4 students, and they're given a fictitious amount of money, $100,000, to invest in the stock market. And it's real time, meaning that as stock markets change and prices fluctuate, it is real time, and so they're experiencing that, so they can really follow current events and really be watching how their stocks are doing. It gets really fun. It runs for about, it's about 2 months is the total time that it runs. It does start next week. However, you can get in really at any time after the first week that it starts. And I'll show you in a second where you can sign up for the stock market game. But that's a really engaging, fun way to get students involved in learning about the stock market and investing. That's a really good one. And I am going to show you where to find that. It looks like it may have dropped off my, our main website is Econ is Okay. And over here at the stock market game, you can click on that, and it gives you more information about our game dates. Spring semester is from February 1st to April 9th. And then you can go and sign up. I think I just skipped that. Yeah, click here to register, and that will take you to the main stock market game website to get registered and get started. It's once you get going, teachers play year after year. So once you get going, your students get so engaged. We have students that want to keep playing year after year, even when they've stopped a personal finance class. They want to, many schools have developed finance clubs just so they can keep games running. So it's a very engaging game and a great opportunity for your students. So that's the stock market game. This is a series of bell ringers or Zoom starters, but different images that you can put up, different quotes from famous people about personal finance that kind of tie into personal finance. So a good way to maybe get a class started. And we have a series of those. There's about 30 slides that you can use that are based on quotes, and then also statistics as well that are interesting and can lead into some further discussion. These are some of the web links that I've shared with you. EconEd Link, Money is Okay. Federal Reserve Education is one that I haven't shared with you, and I'm going to show you that one right now. And if you haven't connected with the Federal Reserve System and all of the resources that they provide, that is definitely something to make sure that you're on their mailing list. When we are in person and can do events, they host some of the best events and with lots of resources, and they're really a great team to be connected with, but they are also full of educational resources. So I am going to just do a quick search, and let's just do investing and see what happens. Oh, good. It looks like that was a good pick of something to search. They are full of activities. This one about pros and cons of saving and investing. They're constantly updating their materials and have lots of great resources. So that's another really good one to check out. And I think that kind of we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. We have a Pinterest board for each of the standards that you can go and look at if you use that for an educational tool. And so we are frequently posting things on there as well. One other place that I wanted to show you, the State Department of Education website and the personal financial literacy page, and going to look at their personal financial literacy curriculum and teacher guides. We are in the process of working with them and partnering together with updating all of the information. Just done economic reasoning has just been updated, and as we're doing the updates, it's also including virtual learning styles as well. We'll be going through those and updating them throughout. This one will be standard 1 will be in the next month, and we'll be continuing to update them throughout time. And then I'm going to go back. And then over here, there's a professional development series. We have done 3 of them. There's one that's just about the standards. So especially if you're new to teaching personal finance, or if you just have, maybe you've been teaching for a while, but it's always good to clarify some information. Sometimes district offices start doing funny things, and that's because our standards are very different. And it's different than other mandates, the way that it's laid out. And that's a great one to review and just to make sure that things are on track. This is an overview of the personal financial literacy curriculum and how it's laid out. And then economic reasoning, which is kind of the opening lesson or opening information of personal financial literacy. This is just kind of a basic set that we are doing that's housed at just on YouTube right now, but we are working to do an entire set of professional development that will be asynchronous, where you can go through it and then get a micro credential at the end of that series. So that will be coming soon in the next month or so, as we're starting to really get into the development of that. So those are things that are on the horizon. One last little announcement that I wanted to add, and then any questions or anything like that, we can certainly visit about, but we are going to be opening back up the Personal Finance Challenge in Oklahoma. We took a hiatus from that for just a couple years, and we're so excited to bring it back. And this time, obviously, in a virtual setting, as we're not doing anything in person right now. So that'll make it even easier and maybe not as intimidating to participate participate in the finance challenge. So it'll be done online, and there'll be a window of about 2 weeks where your students can compete in it. Students compete in teams of about 4 students, and they answer a series of questions. And then the winner of our state moves on, gets prizes, and we have some pretty stellar prizes this year, cash prizes. And then the winner goes on to the National Personal Finance Challenge, which is pretty exciting. So that's starting again. It'll be probably at the beginning of April, and again, there'll be a window, so it won't be a certain date that it'll take place. It'll just be over a 2-week window that you could have your students participate in that. And that's a great way to get students excited and motivated about learning about our standards. So that concludes. I just kind of did a popcorn style of lots of different resources and activities that you could do in your classroom. I'm going to go to our, this is, I didn't realize what little text that is, but I will of course be providing our information and contact information. You can go to our website to find that as well, but we're here to answer questions anytime. We want to help you, and we love to get calls from teachers, especially, you know, if you're looking for a particular resource or remember something from a training that we were in together that we can help you find. So that's what that is our purpose in existing, is to help you as in teaching personal finance. So I'm going to open up, I haven't seen if there's any comments because I've been talking. Or any questions, but if anybody has anything that's going on in their classroom right now, or questions about the standards, or anything, we can certainly open it up now for that. And I'm not seeing my chat is not showing up for some reason. So if somebody has something really brilliant to say, I'm going to need to hear it live. Somebody can say that. Oh, I do have one other announcement. During the summer, there will be 2 summer academies that will be all asynchronous, maybe a little bit of synchronous too, but those will take place in the summer. They'll be 12 hours each, where you'll be able to take those and then earn a micro credential at the end. The first one will be more about kind of more in depth to resources that can be helpful in the classroom. The second one will be more about helping to create resources to support our standards. So be on the lookout for that. If that's something you're interested in, there is a nice little stipend involved in that for participating in that. So, well, as I have not, even though it's a little bit more uncomfortable to say something, turn off your mic and say something, since I haven't heard anything and I can't see comments. They have disappeared. Here, I will take it off screen share. Maybe that will help. But that is all that I have to add. And Brenda did want to, Brenda Chapman is your, she's at the State Department of Education, and she is in charge of personal financial literacy there. She is doing another session right now, otherwise she would have joined us in this call. She is obviously there to help in any way that she can in answering questions, especially when it comes to standards. So she is there as well. So, okay. Oh, there's my chat. I see it. Okay. Yes, a reminder to fill out the attendance, and that's a good reminder that there is a requirement for professional development when you're teaching personal finance. That's part of the mandate that has just started in this school year. So it'll be really good to make sure that you get that professional development certificate and credit for that. So. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time after a day of working, and however working looked like for you today, and appreciate your time. And again, we are here to help you in any way that we can in teaching personal finance. Thank you for joining us. And unless, I don't think, does the social studies team have anything else to add before I officially?
No, just make sure you fill out the attendance form, and you should be receiving your PD certificate within the next couple of days from Mr. Burton.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Todd.